Hello out there in YouTube land, this is Morrisman, and as always, I thank you for coming to my channel. Today I'm going to do a brief special request video from subscriber Ye8Man, and his question was, do you have a specific technique when you're tabbing songs? And I guess I really don't have a specific one, but I can show you or explain to you how I come about tabbing my songs. And first of all, first and foremost is before you can get to that point, your ear has to be somewhat developed, meaning that you can hear, a note struck and you can kind of find it on your fretboard. So, normally you get a little, I guess, formal training and you start to develop your ear because your ear is extremely important. It's good to be able to read music, but it's also good to have a good ear when you don't have sheet music. And you can kind of determine by listening to it what you think they might be doing, and you can find it somewhere in your fretboard. But how I tab my songs is this way. The bass line is extremely important because the bass line can help you determine what chords you need to be playing at that certain time in the song. And what I do is, say for instance, I'm listening to the song, the bass line, and the bass player hits a G note. And the first note usually the bass player strikes within the repetitions of the song, the pattern of the bass line is usually the note that you're trying to match up the chords with. Because of course most players, bass players, when they play their part, they add filler notes in between the main notes. And those are not the notes you're looking for to try to determine what chords are being used. You usually want to hear the first note being struck within that pattern of the bass line. So say for instance the first bass note in that pattern, if it's a G, what you need to do is this. These chords are only going to be, or that particular song is only going to be these particular chords. Like say for instance again, the bass player strikes a G note. So most likely the chord you're looking for at that specific time is either G major, G minor, G minor 7, G 7th, sus 4th, or G major 7. So in most cases, it's going to be one of those chords. And most pop songs, it's going to be just one of those chords. Now, when you're doing jazz music, it's a totally different situation because they use different chords, like G13th is a jazz chord, diminish. So those two chords, so jazz chords, won't normally show up in a R&B or pop song or a rock song. So you don't really have to worry about those. Then there's another chord that a lot of funk players use, the guitar players, and which is kind of different from the major minor suspended chord. It's the ninth chord, and those are used in a lot of funk songs and almost 100% of the James Brown songs. Matter of fact, they call it the James Brown chord, or the Jimi Hendrix chord, which is the ninth chord, but it's just pushed up in the root note now is on the E string. So with the exception of those two chords, and sometimes they might show up in a song, and when they do, you can kind of, if you have a decent ear, you can determine that it's not a major, it's not a minor, it's not a suspended, it's not a seventh. It must be a ninth chord. So that's basically how I tab my songs. Bass line is extremely important. Listen to what the bass player is doing. Try to isolate it as you're listening to the song and map out the notes that the bass player is playing. And say, for instance, well, there is no bass line, like in When Doves Cry, which actually there was a bass line, but before it went to wax, Prince removed it and it worked. But just kind of hum out where you think that note should be if you can't hear it. Because again, the bass line is extremely important. If you follow the bass player, you can kind of map out your song. Now, here's kind of an exception to that rule. If you're just trying to determine a guitar lick, that might not apply. And what I can only suggest is listen to the chord or the riff and try to listen to the multiple notes in there and try to find them on your fretboard. And also what's important is try to find the right voicing, because in the majority of my tutorials I try to find the right voicings for that particular song so it can sound very close to the CD or the record. When you don't use the right voice, and it won't sound the same. It will sound like you're playing the song, but it doesn't sound the same. And I'm a real stickler when it comes to that. I try to find the right voicing, and that's extremely important to match up your sound. Because You know, when I was growing up and learning how to play, I wanted to play just like the record. I want to sound just like the guy on the record. I want to try to use the exact same chords if possible to find them on the record. Now, here are a few guitar players that are kind of unique in their voice, and it's kind of hard to determine what's going on when they playing it. The guitar player from the Gap Band, I think his name is Roy Calhoun. Yearning for Your Love, the intro, the guitar riff. It took me like 5 years to determine what the hell is he doing. And what he was doing was really unique. And the guitar player for Shaka Khan, Sweet Love, or what's that? Shaka Khan, what's the name of that song? Sweet Thing. That's another guitar riff that's kind of hard to determine what he's doing. And then another one is the Ohio Players, Sweet Sticky Thing. You know, those guys kind of use very unique voicings. And I guess they kind of strayed away. I won't say strayed away, but just unique in their playing. And it's kind of hard to determine what the hell are they playing. Here's another riff that's very hard to kind of map out, but I was able to determine what they were doing based on the help from another YouTube user. Is Tyrone Davis, Change My Mind. That was another one that was very hard to determine what was he doing, but I was able to kind of figure it out. So on that note, I'm going to wrap this up and hope that this has been helpful to subscriber Ye8Man and anybody else out there that's viewing this. You know, hopefully this has been enlightening as far as, you know, this is how I approach trying to tabulate songs. Because you won't always be able to find the sheet music, unfortunately, for R&B stuff. Rock music is always available, the sheet music, but as I start to learn how to play, I determined that, you know, depending on the artist and the bigger the budget or whatever, they won't put out sheet music. So, again, I hope this has been helpful. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down at the bottom and I'll get back to you. As always, again, I thank you for viewing my channel and I thank you for your subscriptions. Take care.